guys, welcome to the tasting room at Tightrope Winery here on kind of the southern tip of the Naramata Bench. I am here with owner and winemaker Lyndsay O'Rourke. I just got to do some pruning of the Barbera vines here at their family estate, and we're going to try some of the wines that these vines actually produce. Two wines are from the Barbera. We've got the blending and addition in the rosé, as well as the red wine Vertigo. So thanks for having me here today, Lyndsay, and letting me taste them.
Thanks for coming, and yeah, it's a great idea. Lots of fun to go over this. So the first wine I thought we would try is our 2019 rosé, which is actually mostly a blend of Pinot Noir, but we call it a splash of Barbera. So this vintage, there's about 7% Barbera in here. I'll just pour you some.
So for those of you that don't know, there are many different ways to make rosé. You can have a saignée method where you basically bleed off the grapes, a byproduct of basically red wine making. There's a blending process as well, and there's a cold soak. These grapes is actually pretty cool. Graham actually grows these grapes specifically for Lyndsay to make this wine. So can you just tell us a little bit about how this is made, Lyndsay?
Sure, yeah. So as I'm sure Graham explained, we when we grow the grapes for this wine, it's made to make it as a rosé. So it's not, like you say, it's not the saignée method, which is basically taking grapes that are grown for red wine and just bleeding off a bit of the wine and then making the rosé. We actually crop it and manage it to make rosé. So we crop it a little bit higher, and that helps to slow down the ripening, so we get the higher acidity and sort of the brighter fruit flavors, more in the red scale than the dark fruit kind of scale, which makes for a nicer rosé. And the Barbera, because it's such a highly acidic grape, the acid in the Barbera actually elevates the rosé, and it adds some really nice red flavors like the raspberry, strawberry kind of rhubarby flavors, as well as it adds a touch of spiciness as well. So
wonderful. Off the bat, I can't help but notice the stunning color. Knowing this wine is predominantly Pinot Noir, and knowing Pinot Noir naturally has less of that anthocyanin in the grape skins, does the Barbera at only 7% really equate to that much of the color pigment of this wine?
It really does, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, the Barbera, it really does make a huge difference, even at that smaller percentage. The three characteristics of Barbera is that it's sort of a medium to light tannin, so it doesn't have a lot of tannins. It's got high acidity, and it's also a really dark color.
Wow. So
that's where the color in rosé comes from. And like I said, you can taste a bit of that spiciness on the palate as well.
Definitely.
And then, definitely some sort of rhubarb.
Yeah. Off the bat on the nose, it's definitely got that little bit of spice, the rhubarb. Definitely more of those red fruit characters that you mentioned. But the acidity, when I took my first sip, is incredible. I can feel it kind of puckering the sides of my cheek already. So
yeah, which makes it a great food wine, actually. It goes a lot with lots of different foods. And it's also just a good summer sipper, as we like to say. Good, nice summer wine.
Absolutely. Pairs with a patio.
Yeah. Doesn't feel like it outside right now, but it's coming soon.
It is around the corner.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the 2019 Tightrope Rosé, Splash of Barbera, and beautiful. Perfect for charcuterie pairings. Thank you, Lyndsay, for making great wine.
You're very welcome. Glad you enjoyed it.
So, really excited to get to the red. As you can see, there's some snow on the ground. I'm still not really into that whole kind of white wine mode yet, so I'm excited to try this red. Again, it's a blend with some more of that Barbera. So Lyndsay, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so this is our red blend called Vertigo, which I think is pretty unique to us because it's a blend of Merlot, Barbera, and Cabernet Franc.
Wow.
Yeah, and this one is 100% estate grown as well.
Amazing.
So all the grapes come from our vineyard here. And we started making this, I guess, in 2013 was our first vintage. And the Cab Franc and Barbera are often actually fermented together because we have such a small amount of them both that we ended up just logistically, like to fill a fermentation bin, we usually would ferment them both together. And then so they'll age together and what have you, and then we'll blend it in with the Merlot later on.
And what's the quantity? Like how many like liters to case production? Or
for the 2018, I believe we have about 125 cases. So it's a very small production. So that's maybe what, 5 barrels? Yeah. So it's quite a small production. And the Vertigo, the blend varies a little bit from year to year, just depending on what we want to do at the end of the year. We're trying to make it somewhat consistent from year to year, but it usually ends up being about 50% Merlot and then 25% Barbera, 25% Cab Franc. And that can vary a bit. Like this vintage, I think it was 45% Merlot, 30 Barbera, 25 Cab Franc, just depending what we want to do for the wine that year. And now that we've planted more Barbera and that's coming online, we're hoping that we can up the production a bit and then make it a little more widely available. Yeah, it'll never be a huge production wine, but maybe more than 5 barrels. so yeah. Barbera is interesting to work with because, as I had mentioned before, with the rosé tasting, it really likes to hold on to its acid. Like we can get the sugars quite high, we can get really good tannic ripeness, but often the acid will still be quite high.
And it makes it an age-worthy wine.
It does, for sure, makes it age-worthy, and it our Merlot tends to sort of drop its acid out, so it actually balances that out quite nicely as well. So when we blend it back in.
One thing that I'd like to point, because of the New Zealand influence, and you and Graham both doing your viticulture and knowledge degrees down there, all your wines are under screw cap.
Mm-hmm. That's right, yeah. There's definitely a New Zealand influence for sure.
Very cool.
Yeah, we did they really sort of pushed that at school, and it's just sort of something that I've taken to heart and sort of gone with, and it's something I've become very comfortable with, is putting everything under screw cap. It does really age very well, even red wines.
Definitely. Amazing. Yeah, so you said that the first vintage was 2013. This one we're drinking now
This is the 18. The
wonderful.
2018, yeah.
So despite having that kind of house style that you were kind of attain, as you had mentioned, vintage variation does play a huge role here in the Okanagan.
Yes.
Weather and climate changes, subtle nuances to kind of happen naturally. Do you try to mitigate them? I know you're more of a minimal intervention winemaker when you can. So each bottle and each vintage does vary, subtly on aromas and palate nuance.
And that's what I actually love about winemaking, is that every year is different. Mother Nature throws something different to you every year, and it's something that you have to deal with. And I like the fact that our wines taste a little bit different from year to year. I believe we have a style for sure. Yeah. Just with our philosophies of how we grow grapes and make wine, we definitely have a style. But I definitely like to let the vintage show what the year was like, and what happened. So yeah, so all our vintages are a little bit different from year to year. But hopefully, like I said, that style does sort of show through in all our wines.
Which is a really good idea to book a wine tour annually with Grape Savvy Wine Tours. Yeah. Because all the wines taste different every year. So yeah. Awesome. Getting back to this wine though, obviously with the Barbera Cab Franc, Cab Franc's a thicker skin grape. You can tell the color is absolutely stunning. It's deep, dark, ruby red. I don't even have to hold the wine glass to my nose. I can actually smell the intense aromas. Lots of dark fruit, cherry. You age this one in French oak?
Yes, yeah, French oak and a little bit of American oak as well too. But
how long?
This one I believe was in barrel for 12 months. It's anywhere from 10 to 12 months, just depending on like I said, Barbera is not a hugely tannic wine, so it's not going to benefit from a huge amount of barrel aging, but not to say it couldn't benefit from some bottle aging, but with the acidity that's in there. But.
No, but it is, on the palate, the acidity definitely comes through, but it does have that really nice kind of subtle tannin structure. For me off the bat, with that smokiness and the Cab Franc, perfect barbecue wine.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's not
it's light enough to drink on its own as well. You don't necessarily need food.
So it is more of a medium-bodied red wine for sure. So it can go with sort of it doesn't have to be a big huge steak that you have it with either. It could be Could be a pepperoni pizza. I don't know.
Exactly. Delicious.
Awesome. Yeah. And with that acidity, it should age well as well. So we've got wines going back to 2013. So every now and then we pull one out, and they're aging quite nicely. So it's good.
Well, let me know when you do that. I would love to try them.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All I want to do is make really good wine. And so Graham works really hard in the vineyard to bring in good quality grapes. He knows the wine we want to make, so he manages the vineyard with that in mind. And then when I'm in the winery, I'm just trying to make the best wine that I can with what the vintage has given me. I want to make wines that are varietally correct, that express the vintage, and that aren't overworked. I want the grapes to speak for themselves. I want the terroir to speak for itself, and so often that means, being a little more hands-off and not worrying about your inputs and stuff, which is easy if you have good grapes. Then
yeah, exactly. And quality is grown.
Yeah, it is. Like they say, wines are made in the vineyard, and that is for the most part very true. And so it's the harder years when when we've had disease pressure, or we haven't had a great growing season or what have you, and ripeness might be a little on the not where you want it kind of thing. That's when it gets a bit tougher in the winemaking. But you just sort of learn your tricks along the way that will help you bring you to the wine that you want.
And there's always another year.
That's right. And that's exciting. You learn something new every year.
Exactly.
I've been at this for quite a while now, but not as long as a lot of other people around here. But I'm just learning something new every year, so it makes it fun and exciting. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Lyndsay. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Right now, you can book a tasting online, and they will be opening full time for the 2021 season around Easter long weekend. So. Yeah, cheers to balancing the life on the tightrope.
Cheers.
Yeah, not only is Lyndsay and Graham a husband and wife dynamic duo, they're raising 2 boys, they're growing and making wine together, they have a beautiful winery and vineyard here in the Narromette event, so come and check them out. Cheers.
Cheers.